Hello YouTube, my name's Nero, and today we have some Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. What we got going on in this gameplay is the game of Search and Destroy here on the map Detroit, running around with the HBR-A3 assault rifle, which is one of my favorite assault rifles here in Call of Duty. It's great, man. This gun reminds me more of the AK-47 from like prior games than the actual AK-12 that is in this game does, right? It just feels so good. It's high damage, low rate of fire. I love this gun. It's very, very nice. I like the iron sights for some reason. I know a lot of people don't seem to like them because they're not open. They're closed-in iron sights, but they work well for me. I just really enjoy them. And I know it's kind of like a cliche thing to say here on YouTube, like, oh, this was my first game on it, look how good I did, or this is my first game ever playing this game type, look how good I did. But this is like the second or third time I've ever played Search and Destroy here in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and I do really freaking good. I was really proud of this gameplay, and I go flawless, and lots of kills, and hopefully you guys will sit back, relax, and enjoy the gameplay, because I just love it. It's Search and Destroy. It's a game mode I've loved. It's the game mode that really got me into Call of Duty overall. Like back in Call of Duty 4 World at War, I played a ton of Search and Destroy. That's really how I kind of came about in Call of Duty, how I started really getting into the franchise was playing Search and Destroy with my friends, and that's what you're seeing in this gameplay. You know, you're seeing me play Search and Destroy with my friends, and it's a whole lot of fun, and hopefully you guys all enjoy the gameplay. I want to talk to you guys today about beta access in Call of Duty. I feel as though Call of Duty overall needs to have a beta every single year. This is something that they don't do in Call of Duty. There's a couple reasons for that, but they don't have betas in Call of Duty. It's just something they don't do. Then inevitably, when the game comes out, it's broken in one way or another. Sometimes various ways, like with Advanced Warfare. And all of these things could easily be fixed if there was just a simple beta that was put out before the game actually launched. So I want to talk about some of the pros and cons of actually having a beta in Call of Duty and why it's actually a better thing overall for Call of Duty to actually have a beta, and why it would benefit the fans, it would benefit the game itself, it would just benefit everybody involved. So the first thing that people always bring up to me when I say, hey guys, I think Call of Duty should have a beta, the first thing they said was, well, Call of Duty, it's not really a beta style game. You know, it usually comes out pretty polished, and if people had access to a beta and they didn't like the game initially, then they're just not going to play the game. You know, they're not going to buy the game. They're actually going to be losing sales, which is pretty difficult to prove. You can't prove a loss of a sale that way on somebody that may or may not have actually bought it. It's kind of hard to prove that thing, but I can see where people are coming from when they say that, you know, especially something like Advanced Warfare here, where it's so new. You know, the movement system is so new. It's definitely a lot different than any other Call of Duty game that we've really had before. So I can understand people saying, like, maybe they try out this new movement system, it really turns them off the game, they don't like it, then maybe they lose sales because of that, because people didn't want to play it. They would rather get that day one sale of somebody that's like, oh, I'll give the game a shot, I'll pay my $60, I usually like Call of Duty, so I'll try it out, and then whether or not they like it, they still, you know, Activision, Sledgehammer Games, they got their money, you know, they got that sale. Well, my counter argument to that is, one, you can't really prove a loss of a sale that may or may not have actually happened, but my biggest counter to that is when you have someone that's beta access to a game, right? They're going to buy the game, right? Because what do you do to get beta access is pre-ordering the game. There's another game out there that you guys may have heard of. I can't remember the exact name of it, but there's another game out there that recently set the new record for the most pre-orders ever. It's the most pre-ordered game in the history of video games. I cannot remember for the life of me the name of that game, what that game might have been. But I do remember it broke the record. And I do remember the reason why it broke the record was because if you pre-ordered the game, you got access to a beta. And when you got access to the beta, over 5 million people played that beta, and that did not negatively affect sales. If anything, it really boosted sales because it was a pretty smooth beta overall. I can't remember the name of that damn game. It's bothering me. I cannot remember the name of it. But still, it worked out well for that game, right? The idea of a beta actually worked out well for that game and actually sold a lot more people on the game. And of course, it's not exactly a direct parallel. That game right there was something that was completely new. It was by a studio that a lot of people really enjoyed the prior games from, but it was a completely new IP. It was a lot different than a lot of other things. And people played that game and they enjoyed it, and it turned out well. The idea of that actually worked out well for them, and they got so many people to pre-order the game. The reason pre-orders work, the reason why every single year for Call of Duty, you see them kind of pushing for pre-orders every single year with all different kinds of pre-order bonuses and things like that, is because a pre-order is just about a sale. Of course, it's not a guaranteed sale. I've only pre-ordered one thing in my life. It was Titanfall, and I lost my pre-order. I didn't even know where it went, so I didn't end up using that pre-order, but I ended up getting the game anyway, right? If you pre-order a game, it's not a guaranteed sale, but it's close to a guaranteed sale because of the sunk cost fallacy. If you're unaware of what the sunk cost fallacy is, basically what it means is if somebody puts money into something, or if you spend money on something, you're going to to play that thing. You're going to use that thing. You're going to do whatever it is you sunk money into because you figure in your head, hey, I've already put money into this. I need to get my money's worth out of this. So if somebody pre-orders a game and they get all these kind of crazy bonuses and whatnot, chances are on day one or at least sometime in the near future, they're actually going to go ahead and acquire that game. They're going to purchase that game because they've already put a little bit of money in there. Once you get people hooked with the sunk cost fallacy, chances are they're actually going to go ahead and buy the game. So if you actually give access to a beta, which is something that so many people want in any game, right? If you're passionate about any game franchise out there, just any gaming franchise out there, you are going to want to be in the beta. You're going to want to be able to play the game as soon as humanly possible. That's what we are as gamers, right? Would you guys have not wanted for $5 to be able to pre-order a game, for $5 to have access to the Call of Duty Advanced Warfare beta? Maybe not now. Maybe some of you guys will say no now because you've actually been able to experience the game and whatnot. But prior to the game coming out, would you not have wanted that? The next Treyarch game, let's just call it Black Ops 3. We don't know what the next Treyarch game is going to be, but we do know next November there's going to be a new Call of Duty game coming out. It's going to be made by Treyarch. Would you not want into that beta to be able to play as soon as humanly possible? Now, sure, it's a beta. There's things you're going to... It's not going to be a final product. There's going to be some bugs. There's going to be some glitches. The betas are actually been proven to actually help out with the development of a game so that on day one, you don't have a bunch of crap happening in your game. Now, the last time Call of Duty actually did a beta was back during Call of Duty World at War, and I did not partake in that beta, believe it or not. I was kind of like inching my way into the Call of Duty scene about that time. I didn't pay too much attention to gaming. I didn't really know what YouTube was, so I did not participate in the beta, but doing some research on it, they actually found a bunch of glitches within the game. They were able to nerf some guns, they were able to buff some guns, and they actually went and patched a bunch of things that could have been game-breaking for the general public when the game actually came out, when millions of people bought that game. There was a bunch of under-the-map glitches, and even like later on in the game's franchise, there were still under-the-map glitches that people, ended up finding later on, but for the most part, they ended up patching a bunch of glitches. The guns came out a lot more balanced than they prior were, which the MP40 was still never really nerfed, and it should have been, but they were able to balance the game. They were able to make the game better for the day one release as compared to what it would have been if they did not have that beta. Now, let's take Advanced Warfare here as the example. If that game came out and actually had a beta, right? Instead of it coming out in the state that's in now, which I think you guys know, there's a lot of things in this game that are broken. Let's talk about mainly the ball. The Ball of Duty Advanced Warfare, how everyone's using that gun. Probably 90%, I'm making up numbers here, but probably 90% of people in this game are using a ball, and it's ridiculous, man. That gun is so overused that it really needs to either be nerfed or something needs to happen to it, because it is not fun playing a game where 90% of its players are running around using the exact same gun, That's something that would have been addressed right away. The fact that a lot of people are complaining that some machine guns in Advanced Warfare are very, very weak. That's something that would have been noticed in the beta, and they would have actually been buffed a little bit, and they would have actually came out on day one here when millions of people are playing it. We all would have had good balanced SMGs right from the get. You look at the leaderboards. The fact that the leaderboards here in Advanced Warfare, they just don't work. If you prestige, they stop tracking your stats, and they're working on a fix on that, and credit to Sledgehammer, they're working on a fix on that, but they're not going to be able to make up for lost time. All the time that we put into the game, in terms of like our combat records, which are also broken, they're not going to be able to fix our combat records. Our combat records are going to stay broken. They're going to make it so they can't get worse by the glitches that are happening to them right now, but they're not going to be able to fix it. Same thing goes for the leaderboards. All the progress you've made in Advanced Warfare so far is basically for naught if you've already prestige, and that's kind of a crappy thing. That leaderboard thing and the prestige thing, we could have gotten, that stuff would have been fixed right away. In the beta, we would have noticed that right away, and it's very simple to do this kind of thing. I'm not a programmer or anything, but I'm pretty sure you can make leaderboards for the beta. Then once the beta's over, wipe the leaderboards for day one. I think that'd be pretty simple to put together, pretty simple to do. We would have found something like this that happens pretty easily. We wouldn't have had this kind of glitch happen. So overall, I think it actually worked out well for Call of Duty, because all the bugs and stuff like that we experienced like the first month of Call of Duty would just be fixed. They'd be smoothed over right away. And also on the developer end, they're not really losing a whole lot of sales, because if there's anything that we learned from that one other game that I can't remember the name of, that game actually bolstered the holy hell out of their sales. Now, it wouldn't work for everybody, right? That game actually came out, and it was popular because it had a popular studio backing it, right? It was popular for that reason, but it wouldn't work for everybody, right? Just because we all know that it was a popular studio, and it's something like if Dead Island were to come out and say there's a new Dead Island game, pre-order our game to get access to the beta, I'm sure that would boost the pre-order sales a little bit, but it wouldn't boost them by a ton. But let's say somehow there's another gaming franchise out there that consistently sells tens of millions of copies every single year, has a giant fan base, has been around for 10 plus years, and is one of the most recognizable franchises in gaming. Not them, not them. Call of Duty! Call of Duty, right? If Call of Duty were to do this, Call of Duty, the ever popular Call of Duty, were to say, you know what? Here's what you get if you pre-order the Black Ops 3, wherever the new trailer game is. Here's what you get if you pre-order. We're going to give you some crazy new cool looking camo. We're going to give you this cool looking gun. We're going to give you this cool looking character customization thing. We're going to give you this pre-order bonus map. And also, we're going to allow you a week's worth of beta access. You're actually going to be able to play the beta. You're going to be able to play the game several months before the actual release of the game, or maybe 1 month, something like that, whenever they decide to do the beta. You'll be able to play the game early. You'll be able to do some bug testing for us and stuff like that. And you'll be able to experience the game. So no matter what, we can guarantee to our customers that we will have a very good experience for them on day one, the first day they get the game, and going forward. Not having to wait a month, not having to wait 2 months for all the patches and all the stuff that come through to actually fix the game. But right from the get, everything is going to be smooth. Everything's going to be polished. You're going to have a very enjoyable experience. It's a win-win for everybody. They're getting a bunch of money from pre-orders. They're getting a bunch of extra sales from pre-orders. They're going to be setting records for pre-order bonuses out there, you know. It would just work out so well. It would work out so well for everybody. And, you know, Call of Duty is like, oh, we have a lot of hidden things with it, like Sledgehammer Games this year. They really tried to go ahead and hide a lot of things within their game. And I think we understood that. Like, the entire idea of zombies is something they really kind of wanted to try and hide. The idea of like the prestiges and that kind of stuff, they wanted to hide that. The DNA bomb was something that they tried to hide for the longest time. Exomute, for whatever reason, was something they tried to hide for the longest time. They want to hide all this stuff, but hiding stuff doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Just on my own personal standpoint, I don't see why you would hide that kind of stuff. If anything, that's stuff that could possibly boost sales to your game. If right from the get they would have said this game does have a DNA bomb, it's pretty similar to a Counter-Strike, it's similar to a MOAB, but it's a 30-gun streak. Are you good enough to go ahead and get that? That would boost sales for the game rather than hiding it and having, you know, the enthused press, which are people like me, YouTubers who cover this kind of stuff, instead of us telling the entire, you know, general population about the DNA bomb and Exomute and all these things that Advanced Warfare was trying to hide. Instead of us telling them, why don't they just tell it so more people than just like the general like Call of Duty community that we see here on YouTube? What if more people out there were to have information about this, you know, that kind of thing? Put that stuff in your commercials. Why hide that kind of stuff? And even if they did want to still hide stuff for like Black Ops 3, our hypothetical game we're talking about, they could still easily do this just by doing what Advanced Warfare did in the build that we play, in the beta that we play. Just don't have that stuff in there. It's that simple. You know, all the people that were playing Advanced Warfare early, they went to events, they got to play early versions of Advanced Warfare and things like that. You know, they didn't see any of that stuff. Exomute wasn't even in there. It was impossible to even see it. It was just removed from the game. Then they added in there to the actual version of the game later on that they were actually going to sell to people. You know, it's very easy to hide that kind of stuff. So overall, I really see no downsides to a beta. The only thing is, once again, that people go back to is, well, if people play the beta, they don't like the game, they're not going to buy the game. But once again, it's really kind of hard to prove a lost sale when you can't prove whether or not that person was actually going to buy the game anyway. So, I mean, once again, you go back to the sunk cost fallacy, and you look at people are going to put down $5 on a game, chances are they're actually going to buy the game later on. And if they don't, whatever. I mean, they're not going to lose, honestly, that many sales as a result of it. In fact, I think it's going to bolster sales, and it worked out well for other games. I think it'd work out even better for Call of Duty, because this is Call of Duty, man. It's the biggest freaking game in the freaking universe. Well, it's probably not the biggest, but it's one of the biggest games in the history of the freaking free-known world. It's giant. And it could be a better experience for everybody if it had a beta every single year. That was my video. Those are my thoughts. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And if you did, please be sure to leave a rating where you guys feel the video deserves. And of course, let me know in the comments your guys' opinion on the idea of a beta and something more constructive than no Nero beta stupid. That's not a very constructive comment. You know, let me know. Go into detail. If you would like a beta, let us know why you would like a beta. If you think a beta would actually be detrimental to the Call of Duty experience overall, let us know about that. You know, maybe there's some of you guys out there thinking like, oh, well, if I played the beta and I got to experience the game a little bit, I wouldn't be as excited for it upon release. And to those people, I say I agree, but at the same time, you would have a lot smoother of a release than what we've had like with Advanced Warfare, what we had with Ghost, what we had with Black Ops 2 and things like that. I mean, I get the game early every single year. I've gotten it early for Black Ops 2 and for Ghost and here for Advanced Warfare, and within like an hour of playing, I can tell you all the things that are going to be really annoying and just don't work with this game. It's like, that's like within an hour of playing. Like, a beta would just work out so well. Like, within an hour of playing Advanced Warfare, I'm like, these SMGs are awful, this ball is really, really freaking good, and I didn't notice the leaderboard's not working, mainly because I wasn't paying attention to my stats, and the leaderboards don't work prior to the game's actual release, so that people that get the game early don't get the one-up on people that bought like a legit copy of the game. So that's a thing. The leaderboards weren't even up, so we couldn't tell about that. But I didn't notice the combat record actually being broken because I didn't check my combat record ever when I had the game early. But that's the kind of thing we could have avoided I could have learned that like within an hour of playing the game, that the combat records were broken, SMGs needed buffed, the ball is ridiculously too powerful, and all these things that are really annoying a lot of people within Advanced Warfare so far could have been found within an hour of just playing the game early. And so if we had beta, all these things could have been spotted, they could have been pointed out, they could have suggested to the to Sledgehammer Games, to the developer, and say, hey, this is our opinion on this, this is our thoughts on it, and do with what you will. And if they decide to buff some stuff, they decide to nerf some stuff, they decide to actually correct their leaderboards, correct their combat records, and all the things that people are having trouble with the game so far, it could have been a very, very smooth launch experience. So, I don't know. I think it'd work out best for everybody overall if that were the case, but what do I know? What do I know? I've just been playing Call of Duty for 7+ years, and I've been doing it professionally here for, I don't know, 3+ years now. What do I know? I'm just stupid. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. And if you did, please share the rating where you guys feel the video deserves. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel here if you guys are new, because I post a lot of Call of Duty Advanced Warfare content such as this that you may or may not enjoy. But yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please be sure to leave a rating. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day.